Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another day of my stream. Today, I am on another topic, and that topic is conspiracies and conspiracy theories. Now,
Excuse me.
yeah,
I apologize. Fawn is saying that your audio is a little bit low. I forgot. You said raise the hand feature this time. I got you, but I was just
no,
letting you know
don't
if you got
worry,
too far.
don't worry about it. That's actually good information. It's good to know. I need to adjust my mic because if I get it too loud, then it makes it to where the echo happens. If you hear me echoing, tell me.
No, it sounds good right now. It was kind of loud, not loud, but it sounded good for me, so I'm unsure. But if he's listening on Minds, it might be different. So maybe it's something with Minds because it sounds really good on Jitsi. That's something to take into consideration as well. So,
Yeah, I see right there. I got some feedback. I could hear it just barely. Now, let me go ahead. It was just barely, so it's not going to be like a big issue. Could be some bleed through. But the topic that I wanted to start out with, since this is actually my first official stream in this format, is well, the words conspiracy and conspiracy theory. I don't know if you guys have actually checked out what they have from Wikipedia, which don't get me wrong, I don't like using Wikipedia, but Robot was talking about it yesterday and I told him to stop reading it. So I got curious and I wanted to find a couple things, and like conspiracy and conspiracy theory is a good example of why I don't like to use Wikipedia. And here, let me pull it up. Now, on Wikipedia, they have this idea or this new concept that I've never seen it on there before, and I've checked this out, but now I guess it's really popular to separate the difference between a conspiracy and a conspiracy theory. You know what I mean? And for me, the the reason why I have a hard time with that is because they they say that conspiracies or no, a conspiracy usually has to do with politics, or you know what I mean, and it's usually people who are against science and who are uneducated that are the ones making these claims. You know what I mean? And then they say, but don't mistake that with a conspiracy, okay? Now, right here on their Wikipedia page for conspiracy theory, it says a conspiracy theory is an explanation for an event or situation that asserts the existence of a conspiracy by powerful and sinister groups, often political in motivation, when other explanations are more probable. The term generally has a negative connotation, implying, this is conspiracy theory, implying that the appeal of a conspiracy theory is based in prejudice, emotional conviction, and insufficient evidence. A conspiracy theory is distinct from a conspiracy. Okay, now on conspiracy, a conspiracy, also known as a plot, is a secret plan or agreement between people called conspirers or conspirators for an unlawful or harmful purpose, such as murder or treason, especially with political motivation. Now, for me personally, um, they both kind of go hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't see the reason why a person would actually say, well, other than the criminal aspects of it, you know, in law and stuff. But conspiracy theories go way back before the 20th century. It's nothing new. There's nothing uh, new under the sun. You know what I mean? they had conspiracy theories back in the 1600s, the 1700s, all the way up until now, and the majority of that stuff concerned politics. I mean, everything, you know what I mean? So for me, that's the thing that I really want to focus on and kind of have a conversation about it, because I don't know, I think things are really changing to where people aren't really aware of like uh, different, well, conspiracies, okay, and conspiracy theories. They're not really aware of what they really are, in my opinion. I think that things are getting a little bit too descriptive in the world, you know. It's pretty messed up, to be honest with you. I read that, and I'm like, I can't believe that somebody would honestly say that, you know what I mean? And then, like, saying that people who believe in conspiracy theories are, you know, uneducated. I mean, I can name 3 people who freaking are ancient aliens who are freaking rocket scientists, or one that's a rocket scientist, but 3 of them that are educated and have professional lives. You know, that's just completely absurd. But that's what my take on the deal is. But if you guys want to, man, I'll let it go at that. See what you guys want to do, talk about. Let me get back on here and see.
Okay, so listen, I had read something not long ago, and please correct me if I'm incorrect, definitely. But I had read something, and it was talking about the government having locked seal. I get excited about conspiracy, concealed documents in which they basically have like some classified file that you're not even allowed to comment on conspiracy theory. But the craziest part about it is, it's everything that we seem to be or say to be conspiracy. So it's like all this stuff locked in a vault. I don't know if it really is in a vault, but you get it. And it's like everything that we that are called conspiracies, but they're not. And they define them as hidden truths. And it's crazy because if they're defining conspiracy as hidden truths, it means it's not a conspiracy, a truth, but we're just hiding it from you. And it's known. I mean, I'm sure we know the government knows, but most people know that the government knows exactly what it's doing. It's like they're not conspiracy. And so the definition, I mean, but it's literally not. It's not made up. They're not stories. That's just something I really would like to emphasize. Conspiracies are not made up. They're normally backed by facts that you have to kind of dig up, research that you have that's really hidden truths in order for you to actually find. And I wanted to know, did you ever hear any of that? Like, because like
Oh
yesterday, like
yeah,
that IRS
you hear
government
that all
document that I
the time.
about
You hear that all the time. I
the
mean,
aliens, right? Yeah.
well, Picos, Dave, you got your hand raised.
He
If
hasn't seen that.
you want to say something, Picos?
Yeah, I mean, chime in.
Pico, you got it. Oh
Whoa,
wow,
whoa, whoa. Wait a minute. Hold on. Alvin, Simon, Theodore. One
something
second.
happened there.
1 second. It was like you were like fast forwarded. Oh my gosh. Is that how I sound? Is that why?
No, that's not you. Pico, say something
Oh,
real
I
quick.
know, but I was just thinking, am I talking really, really fast?
Hold on.
Mm,
that
it's talking really, really fast.
that's strange.
Oh, he's using a voice changer. Can you change it to a slower voice? Because we cannot understand you.
Hold up, let me see what's going on. It's not supposed to be doing that.
Don says he's using a voice changer. It's amazing that he knew that. I thought he was having some type of connection issues.
Well, I'm sure he can hear us because he's been going along with us on the video and like put his
Well,
thumbs up and
yeah, no,
everything.
it's intentional. Don just said it's intentional, like he's using a voice changer. And then I guess he told him what setting
No,
to use in order for
he's
it to
not in
be.
his head, man. It's like
No, it's
like I can see him and everything. It's just every time he tries to talk, it sounds really
Am I still chipmunking? Yes, definitely
yes.
still chipmunking.
That
Do
is
it again.
weird. Okay, let me.
It is. He said chipmunking. That's so funny.
Let me see real quick what that is. See, and that's what I was talking about with
It's kind of
that
entertaining
minds thing.
though, but I wish we could
They
understand you.
really do need to give up on this Jitsi. There's like 5, maybe 6 other platforms they could use better than this. Okay, so
No, we cannot understand anything you're saying. That's why it was like, can
well,
you like slow motion it?
no, that is
He's typing in the chat and he's asking if we can understand. Just reading his chat comments under here,
yeah. We
and like
can.
I was just wondering if there's a way to like,
I can actually I can see his chat. He's saying
yeah,
can you actually understand me? And I'm like, no, I can't.
no.
Now,
I changed some settings. Did that help? Not yet. Mm-mm.
okay, let me see here real quick. Let me ask to unmute. I hit ask to unmute, and it might show a notice there. See if that helps. Nothing. Wow.
They say you're an alien. If you're a Pelodian, that's right, Pelodian. Yeah, just go ahead and say it's okay.
This that's pretty
It's
crazy.
safe with us. It's so funny. Hey, wait, was that you?
No,
Hey, did he say was that sorry him? Oh, I was gonna say,
no.
hey, you're regular again.
We made a successful live stream yesterday. Yeah, that is true. We did.
Maybe it's the platform. It might not be you. It might be Jitsi. Unless you made the successful stream yesterday on Jitsi, then most likely
Well, I mean, let me see.
a Linux user. Linux.
Oh, is he on Linux? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've had issues with a lot of things on Linux. I actually Mark and if it wasn't for Mark, I wouldn't have been able to freaking even upload videos with Linux because
Or maybe at him in the general and ask him, is there any way? But Don seems to be very attentive, and so perhaps him because he's really smart as well.
well, I mean, freaking. Let me see if I can get him. I can go in here.
Mhm.
It's just
He's
amazing.
listening in. Oh, you mean Mark? You're gonna see. I have you.
See what Mark says.
It's been a while since you did. Ask Dave to reboot. May you reboot for us, please, and then rejoin the stream if that's okay, and not asking too much, please and thank you.
He is. Oh, come
Yeah, like
on.
if you can reboot for us, that'll be great. And then that's just the given suggestion. I'm just the messenger, and so then maybe that'll help us.
I see what it is.
It takes a long time.
Don's in
Oh,
there.
that's
Don's in the
discouraging.
chat room causing crap. He's like,
Yeah, I'm
he
seeing.
called Pico Dave a
You see
freaking alien. I was wondering what the hell you were talking about.
what I'm talking about, right? I sound like a
Yeah,
crazy one.
I
Like it comes up
understand
at the top of
now.
my screen, so I'm just reading it as it goes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man! I was like, did he? Like,
I wish I could.
okay, so
Okay, he said he's repeating that.
now see
What happened to us though?
for a second there, it actually worked. I think
You heard him?
just maybe. Let's see if he
Mm-mm.
pops back in. we just we just lost somebody because of the bad Jitsi experience. Now,
But keep going while we wait for him.
I mean, for me, that's one of the deals that I do have, and it is a conversation that's worth having, when it comes to this whole idea of separating what a conspiracy is and what a conspiracy theory is.
What are some conspiracies you heard? Like, what are some things that have yet to be publicized, but they say are conspiracies, but we know about them? We know about them.
Well,
Anything in particular?
there's different degrees of them. Like for me, a lot of the conspiracies that I think are really cool are the. Yeah, hold up, Pico's is back. You there?
Welcome back, Alien. No, I'm just joking. I'm not calling an alien for real.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I was pushing everything through OBS. Does it sound better now?
Yes, it sounds
Yes,
a
it does.
lot better.
Okay.
You sound like a human. No offense to the aliens, but yes,
Don,
let's go.
Don, Don said you were an alien. He said Pico Dave is an alien.
Yeah, I was using OBS to control everything. I like having, I like being able to send my own background or whatever if I want to. And So yeah, I think OBS was what was causing the issue, but I've used it.
OBS was OBS.
Right. So no, what I was gonna say is, people brought up aliens. I actually have a little more background on that than most people. I'm not some kind of alien nut or anything, but my father was born in Artesia, New Mexico, and his grandfather actually worked on the pumps for the guy who had the crash, on his farm near Roswell. And my great grandfather talked to the guy about that stuff extensively. And I spent 8 years at NASA. And while I was there were 3 people that I talked to on a regular basis that had been there for 40 years. And they were quite talkative about the old ways around there. Officially NASA had no stance on them existing, whatever. But all the old timers that were there during the Gemini program, they talked about it openly. There was the talk of the town when that UFO was trailing, was it Apollo 10? And I was doing some work in there, and I've heard people talk about things that probably should. What's up?
Can you elaborate? You said it was trailing Apollo 10. What's that about? I never heard of this before.
Oh,
UFO?
That's actually fairly well documented. That's one of the ones that was talked about. I think it was Apollo 10. It might have been a different Apollo mission, but
that doesn't even matter. That part, I'm more so concerned with the fact that this is news that I can Google or something.
Yeah, look up the quote, "We have a Santa Claus."
Oh, wow.
If you look
right. I'm about to do it right now. I got to do one thing.
Because it was on Christmas Eve, and they asked for the location of, what was the second phase? I forgot the names of each of the propulsion phases on the Apollo rockets, but they asked where their second phase was because they noticed they were being followed. And they told them it was way the hell off. I mean, so far they wouldn't have been able to see it. And they said, "Houston, we have a Santa Claus." And that's when the radios they were using back then, there was a more public channel, and then they kind of had a scrambled back channel. And as soon as they said, "We have a Santa Claus," that was the cue for them to switch to stop doing public audio with Capcom and switch to the encrypted data. And that's when they described what they were being followed by. But yeah, you talk to the old timers that were there over 40 years ago, you hear all kinds of stories. I guess closer to 50 years ago now, because it's been more than 10 years since. It's been nearly 10 years since I've worked there, so it's been a while since even I heard these stories. I say 40 because they were been there 40 years when I got hired. That's been a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, you talk to the old timers around there. They talked about the encounters very openly in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. Somewhere around the early 80s is when they clamped down on all the talk and started taking their official position that they don't exist. But now they airbrush things out. I know for a fact there are smaller craft that hang around the ISS and just keep an eye on it. I don't have many details about anything. I just know there's been extensive encounters. And
that goes back to what I was just saying about the whole thing about trying to differentiate between a conspiracy and a conspiracy theory, okay? Now, I want to elaborate on the fact you're talking about educated men. You're talking about men of science who had been around the field for quite a few years, and they're just openly talking about aliens, you know what I mean? There's a group of people that are out there trying their best to make it out like people who believe in conspiracy theories are uneducated people who know nothing about science and blah, blah, blah. It's written all over the place, you know what I mean? And I just think that that's a shame, because I don't believe in every conspiracy
as well as liars.
Theory. You know what I mean? I don't fall for every conspiracy theory, but there are good ones. There really are.
Which ones do you not agree with? Which
Well,
one do you not agree
I
with?
just wanted
Just
to make that
curiosity.
point and let Picos talk because he's saying some good stuff. You know what I mean? So I
Oh,
just wanted to add that in there. You know
You'll
what I mean?
answer it later. Okay, I
He,
understand.
he, he's, he, you're doing a really good example of what I'm talking about right there. That's amazing. And
but what they do with conspiracy
Yeah, I'm looking
theories,
up Santa Claus now.
the word conspiracy theory itself was, I think, a CIA or FBI operation to get people to
Hmm.
quit looking at the UFOs.
yeah,
Uh, they just made them sound crazy, and if you label someone as crazy, no one pays attention to them.
yeah,
Eventually, that quit working. Honestly, the whole COVID fiasco was one of the best things that ever happened to correct, to get people to look at misinformation and figure out what real misinformation is versus uh, propaganda.
yeah,
And unfortunately, the best way they found the word conspiracy theorist doesn't really work anymore. And the new way they've come about getting people to quit looking at things is telling everyone it's real, then adding a whole lot of information that isn't.
yeah,
So, I can't tell you a lot about UFOs beyond the fact I know, well, absolutely they exist. There's no doubt. We've documented them. We have pieces of them. We have recovered bodies. And beyond that, I really don't know. The problem is every
What kind of
time,
body? Aliens?
right, every time some kind of real information comes out, they release 12 more stories to go along with it. And by the time you assimilate all the data that's publicly available, mostly from tinfoil hat sites, you never know what's real or not.
Now, do you think
Chances
that?
are, if you look at everything, you found the truth somewhere and you found 12 layers of bullshit around it.
Yeah. Now, my question is honestly, like those tinfoil outfits. Do you think that's on purpose? Like those are actually orchestrated?
There is,
Yes.
there are intentional disinformation personalities. I think I've identified one on mines, but I'm not 100% sure. Kind of like the Q phenomenon. Q was real at first. The first 2 weeks or so that Q was around, that was real. But the keys got taken over and it became a disinformation campaign. Uh,
QAnon, AN. Yeah.
what I found is, other than fake personalities tend to not work too well because they tend to get outed, what you have is you get tainted sources. You have people making intentional misinformation, and they feed that misinformation to trusted tinfoil hat individuals. And the very best reporters verify before they release anything, but you occasionally get the ones that just kind of say, yeah, that looks good, and they publish it. And you've got to really pay attention to which sources you're going to pay attention to, which ones you need to listen to.
Or
And
they're strategically distributing it, like paying people to be tinfoil hats. Not really like those people are really tinfoil hats, but more like paid actors and actresses in order for us to be illusioned. Because in most cases, especially people like you were saying, a notoriety in which they are giving them tinfoil information, they're not really giving for information, saying, hey, we have some serious information and then we would like it to be hidden. And that makes, yeah. And I mean, the people, and there'll be a reason. They'll have to have some type of reason to participate or some type of incentive to participate, which would increase what, yep, definitely. Well, yeah, it makes sense why, yeah, why it'd be the same people always. Mhm.
Now,
No,
see,
I just now going on to my own
another good
conspiracy, but it might
example.
not be.
Another good example of this is like you know how like the popular thing is to bring up Roswell, okay? And the truth of the matter is there have been UFO sightings that go back even farther than Roswell. Like I live here in Southern Illinois, and one of the major first UFO sightings just happened maybe I don't know, about freaking less than 100 miles away from me in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. You know, that was one of the first recorded UFO sightings that was like on the scale of Roswell, but it never made the media, and it was
And
quieted up.
there was a 19th century one here in Texas
Yeah.
that was covered rather extensively at the time in the newspapers. And apparently, they threw the pieces of the craft down the well,
Mm.
gave the aliens a Christian burial, and the people who threw the pieces of the craft down the well pretty much all died of cancer or some kind of radiation poisoning. But it was pretty well documented in the 19th century. And sometime during the 1980s, there was a pretty big one that went down over the Soviet Union, cleared a big path of the forest. But that's the kind of stuff they don't talk about much. And that's the kind of stuff that right, I have levels of solidity when I address issues like this. I've got the level I told you that I know about for sure. Then everything else after that's a different layer of probably, maybe not, could be bullshit. It's just I work in layers on that, and my solid layer is very thin.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way, and I was talking about that the other day with the topic, and I was like, it's about discernment. You have to use your own common sense and discern the truth from the false. If you don't know how to do that, then you're just going to go down an avenue that's going to mess you up. I mean, there's a lot of people on this topic that aren't really trying to come out with this stuff for your best interest, and you really do have to discern between what's bullshit and what's fact, and what's not even what's fact. Are you willing to believe it? Does it even sound like it's even close to being real? You know what I mean? But I agree. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest problems, and I think that the majority of people who are involved in that kind of stuff, they're really people. The majority of them are mentally ill. I mean, that's really the only way that I can say it. It's a mental illness, and I've heard people who get on the internet and they discuss like alien abductions and stuff, and then they don't understand why their family members are doing freaking health checks, sending the police out to the house to make sure they're okay. And it's
Oh,
like, you know,
in my hometown, when I worked at the video store in high school, there was a local bum that was definitely on the crazy end of the equation, that was watching military movements and was constantly talking about UFOs and his abductions. And this particular guy, he's kind of, talking about layers 1 through 5, and he was pretty close to 5 there.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about too. And don't get me wrong. I mean, with some of the stories that I've heard, especially the ones with the secret space program. A lot of the people that are in there that discuss that stuff, you can tell they do have mental illness, and they refuse to be, they've refused to allow themselves to have psychological evaluations and see a therapist and stuff. And then they talk about poor health. And a lot of them talk about poor health. But the thing is like, if that kind of stuff really did happen to them, even if let's give them the benefit of the doubt, some of the stuff they said, if it really did happen to it, don't you think that would affect them, mentally, to where they would still want to get psychological evaluations and help with their mental problems? I mean,
I feel
Oh,
like the
no.
cover up would affect them more. The
well,
cover up would affect them more than
the,
the actual process.
these really aren't like people who are, this isn't really about the cover up, you know what I mean? This is about people who, well, they're being manipulated by the people who are doing the cover ups. Okay, it's like They
Exactly.
they have mental
That's what I'm
illness.
saying. The aliens themselves, I don't feel
No,
like would cause the
this
trauma.
is the
Like
government.
alien
I mean,
sightings are not going to
this
cause
is
you
the
trauma.
government doing it. Okay,
Yeah,
like these people have mental
capitalism.
illnesses, and they're being showcased by the government. Okay, and they're like, look, these are crazy people. This is what you believe. You know what I mean? And there's abundant amount of information with people like that. If you go on the internet and just look at the first 10 videos, I guarantee you it's going to be a lot of people who are going to tell you a lot of things about aliens that just are just outlandish, okay? And it's going to happen. Now, if you can't discern between that and what the truth is, then you're going to be basically suckered into believing it. You know what I mean? But that's the thing that I see about a lot of the people, especially who believe in the secret space program, because and there's even people who honestly talk about that stuff, and he's very popular too, and he's one of the guys I'm referring to. They monopolize on that, and they make money off of it. You know what I mean? Make a few $1,000s and go out with his wife to get freaking face jobs done, keep that pretty yellow hair freaking, straight and looking young, and that's what they do. They exploit people so that they can make money off of it. And these are people that are actually talking about secret space programs. So you've got a whole lot of things that are going on there that you have to be careful about. And don't get me wrong, there are some people that believe 100% what they're saying, especially when it comes to abductions. But the ones who are really honest are the ones who are willing to actually go to a therapist and have the therapist like do hypnosis on them. Like in Arizona, they came out with that movie. I forgot the name of it. But anyhow, the guys that were involved in that, they didn't even want to freaking be publicized. They didn't want any kind of publicity about it at all whatsoever. And what happened is they were out logging in the woods, and one of the guys that was there was abducted. You know what I mean? And they lost track of him for like, I think it was almost a week and a half. And then all of a sudden he appears at a gas station, and that's where it all started. And that's a good example of what I'm talking about. That's a good story that you can actually research on and stuff like that. But you got to be careful. You can't just fall for everything. But I forgot what the name of that movie was. And I did listen to a couple podcasts of the actual guy that got abducted, and he said that it, the movie isn't what really happened in real life with him, but he went through and kind of explained it all. So I'm going to shut up now, let you guys do some talking.
I see that the quote's been dug up, and I apologize. It was Apollo 8, not 10.
Apollo 8.
But no, a lot of people who have experienced this, I could see them not wanting to go to a psychologist. I mean, this isn't conspiracy. The experiments the three-letter agencies did in the 60s and 70s, and what they're doing now, where they're paying therapists to push kids towards transgenderism as a cult.
Yeah.
In school, it's you have to be very, very careful about going to any kind of psychologist or psychiatrist these days. You need to make sure they're not on the WEF dole.
Well, the thing is there's like psychiatrists out there that literally focus on UFO phenomenon. You know what I mean? They don't have to go to like the psychologist down the street. I should pull up who I'm talking about, because I know it's really important. It was a really big story. I mean, it actually hit freaking national news back then. But he was his name I know one of the guys' names was Dallas, and he was suspected of doing or foul play over the incident because the police were brought in on it, and they were doing literally a full investigation of the incident. But I should try to pull that up and find out. Now, you have Betty and Barney Hill, too. That's another good example right there, okay? Because Betty and Barney Hill was a mixed couple. Okay, they were black and white and married to one another during the 60s. Now, common sense tells you that during that time period, you know, a mixed couple is not going to get up in front of everybody and say, look, I was abducted by aliens. You know, there was a lot of crazy shit going on back then. So they were really putting themselves out there in order to, you know, come clean with the UFO thing. But they, like the other situation I was talking about, they didn't, you know, come out and like try to become famous from it, you know. And the movie I was talking about was Fire in the Sky. It was an Arizona logger mysteriously disappears for 5 days in an alleged encounter with a flying saucer in 1975. And it says the co-workers endured ridicule and contempt as they were wrongly accused of murder. Yeah, so I mean they literally were being accused of murder and saying that they hid the body and everything. So it's a really, really interesting story for me. That's one of the things that sticks out to me. But that is kind of what I'm talking about, you know what I mean? Like it made the movies, and the movie was made all dramatic about like all these horrible things that were being done to him, and the reality is none of that actually happened. I mean, according to his story, when he was brought up into the spaceship, it was because he was legally he was dead, you know, and they actually brought him back to life, and then brought him back to Earth, I guess, wherever he went. But there was no foul play whatsoever in that whole situation. But Hollywood would have made you think that they did surgery on him and strapped him down to a gurney and shoved stuff up his butt, you know, and did some anal probing, you know, just so they could sell a story and make money. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I was wondering, do you feel I'm reading Thon and I'm listening, but hey, Thon, Ebert Thon, oh, that's on the flag. Okay, never mind, that's a sidebar. But look, do you think that like now they press the like homosexual agenda, is that a conspiracy? Do you think that's locked somewhere in their vault that, hey, we're going to impose these type of ideals and beliefs? Because it kind of just came out of
I don't know if he can. Is he still here?
Does it feel conspired?
Oh, I'm still here.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm trying to wrap my head around what you said exactly, because
about the homosexual. Do you think that's a conspiracy? Do you think like it's an agenda? Like we're taught to believe that people's beliefs just change, and that's happening, and they're kind of attempt to tinfoil us in regards to
the purpose yeah, there's a different purpose behind that. That's a psychological operation. I don't think most people really care. Most people are not truly interested in that if they're not a part of it. What they're doing is they're trying to break us mentally. It's more of a, we're going to force you to think about something you don't care about. We're going to force you to tiptoe around it. They're trying to make us into a bunch of jittering idiots with raw nerves. That's the whole point behind that agenda. especially on the more extreme ends of it, because you're trying to put us in a position
Yeah,
where we
it's
give
more
up.
extent.
When you give up once, you're going to give up again, and that's the reality behind that agenda. And it's also they want to reduce our population, and getting people interested in that, they reproduce less, especially on the extreme ends of it. So
There you go.
No,
it's a psychological operation to break us.
no.
Okay.
It
When you
has
said
very
that,
little to do
So
with
is
what
depopulation a conspiracy?
that. No, depopulation's for
Is
real. I mean,
depopulation a conspiracy?
no,
no, they're trying that for
Yeah, it's
real.
real.
the
Told it's a
that goes
conspiracy.
back
But did
to
you not hear these people?
the calling. Okay, it's like the calling, CULL. Now, like it's been known in
Oh, I heard
history
of that
that
movie
people are being called. You know what
too.
I mean? It's also known that we practice calling all the time when it comes to animals. Horses in Canada are being called like you wouldn't believe. They're being rounded up and they're being killed because they are taking up space for ranchers and stuff like that. These are wild horses, but these are known facts. Okay, so it's not hard for somebody to believe that there is something going on that's wanting the human population to drop. Okay, because we're at what 7 billion now. I think it's 7 billion. 7 billion people. All right, this Earth is not capable of handling much more than that. I mean, it's either we are going to have to start going into space and doing exploration, which we have not been doing for freaking a very long time. Okay.
Remember the other programs you were talking about?
Uh huh.
I'm of the belief we've been doing a lot more of it than we've admitted to.
Oh yeah.
Now, I don't have any firsthand info on that. All I have is, layer, as I think of it, layer 3 and 4 stuff. But I think we've been doing a lot more exploration than we've admitted to.
Well, a lot of people talk about the Orion project and how that kind of just vanished. You know what I mean? The Orion project was really, really. They were sincere about getting their asses to freaking another galaxy. Even they,
So there's been more than one Orion project. I assume you're talking about the nuclear propulsion Orion project.
yeah, that came out pretty strong. And they weren't playing around either. That wasn't like using experiments for seeing if the metal. They were even going to use heavy metals to build their spaceships with. They didn't care about all that lightweight shit. You know what I mean? They're like, we're going to use nuclear bombs at the back of our ships, and that's going to push us. And
See, the Orion project, I think the only reason I think we could have possibly pulled it off is the lift technology, the anti-grav tech that we supposedly have that obviously isn't public. Again, we're getting into layer 4 and 5, 3,
yeah,
4, and 5 there. So I don't know if we actually do have the anti-grav tech. I've heard from a little more trusted directions that we do, but it's never been firsthand info. It's never been anything I saw myself.
yeah. And see, that's what makes it hard. Like if you don't see it, it's really hard for you to believe it. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't see that as a problem. To be honest with you, like people ask me if I believe in UFOs. Well, no, I don't believe in it because first of all, I've never seen a UFO. You know what I mean? And I have no problem with that. I think that
Hello.
that's. I mean, and when it comes to everything in my life, if I haven't experienced it, I can't honestly tell you that it exists. I just can't.
I don't know if I've seen one or not. I did see something in the air that was very distant that seemed to break the laws of physics, but it was so far away it looked like a star almost. So, yeah, I don't know if I've seen one or not. If I did, it was a long ways off.
Yeah, and
I
I
have a
mean,
question. You said if you have not experienced it, you cannot necessarily say you do or do not believe it. So, are you a believer by sight?
well, let me put it to you this
Knowledge.
way.
Do you consider yourself myself?
We're talking we're talking about something that a lot of the old timer conspiracy theorists used to say, and it says, freaking what is it? Uh, Something about listen to everything and believe nothing. You know what I mean? It's like you turn around and you listen to the information that's being handed to you and you believe that stuff. There's a good chance you're just gonna get suckered into believing shit like all the old ones. And I'm talking about even the crazy ones like Maxwell. Maxwell was one of the older conspiracy theorists too. He was around, back in the 80s whenever freaking everybody that is talking this stuff now, like David Icke, okay? David Icke pulled like 3/4 of his shit off of freaking Maxwell. And Maxwell was crazy as a dog shit, okay? I mean, but he would tell you straight out. He'd be like, you know what? The reason why you don't believe me is because you're stupid, And I didn't agree with 500 or about 50% of what he was saying, maybe 75, but he
Did you research it yourself?
Yeah, I researched it myself. Like he
Was he right?
not really. Like he would try to relate words to things that weren't really relatable. Like he would try to connect it by words that were being said. You know what I mean? And that was a good thing to research. Don't get me wrong, because I started learning about vocabulary and how people say things. And that helped me out in that aspect. But at the same time, like a lot of the stuff that he said didn't really correlate with one another. You know what I mean? Like he was real big about the word birthing when it came to ships berthing into a port, which was a pretty cool concept. You know what I mean? But he would kind of take that a little too far.
Are you able to elaborate on it a little bit, if you don't mind? Just birthing. Can you, if you, as much as you remember, and if you're unable to, I understand. But I'm just curious.
Well, like when a ship berths, okay, in port, like that ship becomes a part of that government's responsibility, basically. And while it's out at sea, it's nobody's responsibility in the open seas, because there's no well, it's international seas. You know what I mean?
There's no laws on the water.
There's no
Yeah,
laws.
that's why you can drink on cruise ships and you can gamble. Yeah. They told us that when we went on a cruise. Yeah, I know what you mean. Go ahead. I'm listening.
And that's basically the thing. And you look at the process there, like there's no laws when you're at open sea, but the moment you go into a port in a country, first they have to berth you. You have to be berthed as you're entering in and docking. And then after you're berthed, then you can enter into the country. And he was like going through that process. It is kind of complicated, but that part I understand. There's a lot of other things though that he said that was like just you have to kind of pick and choose. And I hate saying that because I know people hate hearing that, but cherry picking is something you've got to do. I don't care if it's getting criticized or not, but I mean you have to cherry pick, because there's just some things that some people say that make sense, and then some things are just completely ridiculous. You know what I mean? You have to be able to discern between it. That's the one thing I always stand by, is you have to discern between the truth and the false.
I will say David Icke is also politically active. And when he makes a prediction or he says something politically, he's usually got the hammer hitting the nail just right on.
It's pretty
Now,
scary.
Yeah, I almost feel bad that I haven't read some more of his stuff, like the books you're talking about, the old books he wrote, but he does tend to trend well. A little over 20 years ago, when I was still young, I used to listen to Art Bell on occasion.
Oh yeah.
And I really appreciated his approach to things, because it didn't matter who he had on the phone. they could have been completely batshit crazy, or they could have been revealing things left and right. He just sat there, sucked on cigarettes, and encouraged them to keep talking.
Yeah.
I really liked his approach. Art Bell didn't so much interview people as he did just giving them a ranting platform and poking them along.
And see, that's the kind of thing I want to do here too, which is really hard to do because Art Bell had a talent. He was the king of radio. I don't care what anybody says. You know what I mean? He could talk about anything with anybody, and it was just you felt good. And I loved his Halloween specials. You know what I mean? People would get on there and they would talk about their encounters with UFOs and ghosts and tell their ghost stories, and they'd do it all night long. And he would just sit there and enjoy it. And I love that stuff. There's never going to be anybody that could take Art Bell's place, ever.
Now, I do, since we're talking about Art Bell for a moment, the Y2K thing, you might be able to tell by my setting and talking about this. I've been in IT and technology my entire adult life. And back in 1998, when the Y2K scare was going full throttle, I kind of sat back and laughed about Art Bell because he was selling hand-cranked radios, cranked up flashlights. He was basically, I think he inspired Alex Jones to do what Alex Jones does now on his sales stuff. But yeah, Art Bell was doing everything he could to hype up the Y2K thing.
Yeah.
Because he was profiting big time off of selling all that stuff. And I can't say that I blamed him too much. I was actually trying to get people to chill out about it. But I actually upset some people when I told them I don't think it's going to be as bad as they're making it out to be. But that's what, human nature. There are people out there that want something to panic about. And those people were happy as pigs in shit when the coronavirus thing came around.
Yeah. And see, when you were talking about that, you look at Alex Jones, okay?
It's Jones
he
right here.
he basically tried to do exactly the same thing Art Bell did. Like, he started following Trump, and I'm not dissing Donald Trump. I'm not doing that at all. I don't want to make it political, but look at what Art Bell did back with Ross Perot. You remember those days? It was like he was just so gung-ho Ross Perot, and I could tell whenever Alex Jones was doing that stuff. I did notice the correlation between Alex Jones and Art Bell, okay? I'll put it to you that way. I agree with you 100% on that one. He was just trying so hard to be like Art Bell, and he couldn't do it.
Jones is too... he's too hyper and too opinionated. Like I said, what made Art Bell great was the fact he would just sit there, suck on a cigarette, and poke you with a stick to keep you going every now and then. Jones, he's got to talk over someone.
Well, there was times when Art Bell would actually get away from the radio and go sort through his closet because he had his little freaking rummaging closet back to the side. And then while everybody's talking, he'd be like, "I'm sorry, I had to go into my closet and get some stuff." So while everybody's talking, he's just sitting there freaking rummaging through his closet because he moved out into the desert and he had his own studio and everything. And he was,
you want to move? Okay,
he was doing great.
I didn't listen in the Perot days. I was in high school then. I started listening to Bell a little bit in, I think, 96 or 97 when I was 18 and working as a security guard at night. And a little bit into my early 20s, I guess. And then, shift changes happened, new job, and he finally went off the air. I checked in on him occasionally, but I wasn't a long-term dedicated listener. I listened when I could guy, especially when I was on the night shift, which was quite frequent in the late 90s, early 2000s. And, I just basically discovered you today because of the chat room.
Okay.
So. Good thing. I don't know how much reach we have.
I'm glad you came in, man. I mean, this has been a really good conversation, and from what you've been talking about, believe it or not, I mean, it's pretty down to earth. It's pretty much where I've been kind of settling in when it comes to the whole conspiracy theory thing, you know, because, like, first of all, like, I know a lot of people believe that the Freemasons were big on conspiracy, but for me, I have to go off what I've learned, you know, and I've literally found no evidence whatsoever to show that Freemasons were conspiracy oriented whatsoever. You know what I mean? Now you can.
But that's because conspiracies are not really conspiracies. It's more people have conspiracies about the Freemasons as opposed to it being
exactly. It's more of the people talking crap about the Freemasons than what it is actual facts that they did anything. Like if you go and you check out Freemasonry, all you're going to find majority of the time is information about their rituals. You're going to find that. You're going to find out about their lodges and how they're autonomous.
Yeah,
things like that.
The autonomous part is actually probably what fuels a lot of the conspiracy around them. They are very fractured, and the Masons of today, pretty much anything that's good is going to get hijacked.
So which one do you
So I think what's happened is there was probably a lot of really good Masons at one time in the past. And I think a lot of lodges probably got hijacked in between. And I think what we have now is we actually have a fracturing of Masonry where there's a lot of lodges that are good. There's a lot of them that have gone off the deep end and in between. And because they're so secretive, it's difficult to ascertain which one's which. I mean,
honestly, it's easier for them to be the scapegoat for the bigger picture. And it's just easier to be able to allow you to, because we wouldn't show you so much of what you see anyway to know that the square and compass is the square and compass, to know about the 33 degrees. Like, we'd rather you, because if I hear controlling what's going on, I don't want you to know that I'm controlling what's going on. So I'll tell you, hey, it's that guy. So those guys are the pawns, and we're basically protecting the king and queen if we're playing chess, if you look at it from that perspective. So I say this because my grandmother was an Eastern Star. My great grandmother raised me, she was an Eastern Star. I was raised in the lodge. But I say that not that I practice, but I'm just saying that I understand to the extent to which, like, there are some people who take their power and misuse it, but that's in anywhere. You can go anywhere and that be the same situation. But it's easier for you to say, we don't like them because this. Exactly. But we're not telling you, hey, we're kind of feeding them over here, and you don't know about us. You kind of reverence us. Like, you'll hear people speak more highly of the Illuminati than they will the Freemasons, and not saying that you still hear people say negative stuff about Illuminati. But now it comes to the point to where people are like, oh, I want to join the Illuminati, not even knowing what the Illuminati actually is. But I just wanted to know that.
Like with that, okay. That goes back to what I was talking about. There has been conspiracy theories for hundreds of years. The Illuminati is a perfect example of it, okay? George Washington even made a speech about the Illuminati. I mean, it is that crazy. George Washington, the first president of the United States, freaking actually was a member of the Masons, Freemasons, okay?
George Washington was not the first president of the United States, but okay, go ahead.
Well, let's just go off the technicalities. I know that there was a guy that held the office until it was given, but I'm just saying the first president, okay, and that right there in itself is another good thing to talk about. But I'm just saying he was a Freemason, and he was so worried about the Illuminati that he even made a speech about it. You know, because this horrible, freaking devious, evil freaking organization was planning on taking over the freaking Freemasons Guild, and to this day nobody knows for sure if the Illuminati actually infiltrated the Freemasons. There's no proof of it. You know, the guy who started it, I don't even know if they freaking know really what happened to him. I know they know his real name and everything, but even his story is so screwed up, people don't have the facts on it. It was a German guy, I believe.
King Solomon?
Yeah, that goes to the Freemasons. their ritual with becoming a member of Freemasons had to do with the Solomon's Temple and what's his name? I even have videos on it. Habakkuk or some shit.
Yeah, he's got a book of the Bible named after him. I didn't realize he was in the middle of that, but
yeah,
I do some study, but I'm so spread so thin with all the knowledge I accumulate. I got a lot of gaps.
Yeah. Well, I've actually found out like there's a lot of people back in the past that tried to connect a lot of Middle Age conspiracy and stuff like that with the ancient times, and like with Freemasonry, they always wanted to try to connect it somehow with the Egyptians, and they also wanted to connect it with the Israelites and the Jews and stuff like that. In the New Kingdom, Egypt, they had statues where the statues would step out with their hand out and 1 foot forward, and that's why the Masons took that on, because that was an Egyptian symbol for secrecy and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty cool, but there's no connection, you know what I mean? There's no like solid link going straight from here all the way back to ancient Egypt. Like, that's just not real. So, but there's cool stories. I mean, like they have stuff. Have you guys ever heard about the Emerald Tablets?
Not those in particular, no.
The Emerald Tablets were created by Thoth, and Thoth put all of his wisdom on these tablets, and apparently they're hidden somewhere. Well, there's a tablets or writings about the tablets that came out in the Middle Ages that a lot of people for a long time thought was the real Emerald tablets, but they found out later that it was basically a fraud, you know. But I mean, there was a whole bunch of people, man, that believed in that stuff. Gnostics were big on it, and it just kind of, you know, got blended into society, you know. And it's pretty cool stuff. Any way you look at it, if you just sit down and read it, I mean, it would just blow your imagination away. You can't say that it's bad stuff because it's cool to read. I mean,
Now, since we're talking about conspiracies, one of the current ones going around is Egypt actually did locate the Hall of Records, and they broke in over a decade ago. And they're just keeping it hush-hush and not letting us know about it. So if those tablets do exist, there's a pretty good chance they've been found in the last decade or two.
yeah. Now that's kind of tied to it. Edward Casey, Edgar Casey, he was the big kahuna behind all that. I mean, he would have his visions, and he would discuss things like Atlantis, the hidden the hidden records under the Sphinx. We had a good conversation yesterday about that stuff, and it really I think we had a pretty good time on that one, because Robot was with me, and we all kind of went a little in different directions and stuff, and I'm like, look, man, this is the first time we've done this topic. I mean, you're actually comfortable. You're saying what's on your mind. I'm comfortable. We were all feeling comfortable. I was like, you did a good job, you know. Now later on, if we want to get structured, that's cool, but like that was just the first video we made on that topic. So we were talking about that though, and we had a pretty good conversation about it. So I have no problem.
You should consider structuring this topic too, and then getting people who are, because you said that Sano, you mentioned her in the chat. I guess maybe she did not see it, but you should get structured on this topic. People who are really big with conspiracies, and maybe perhaps every single week a different conspiracy that you focus on, and have as much information as possible, and asking for people to have as much information as possible in regards, like you can give us the heads up and say, hey, we're going to be talking about this conspiracy. You bring your information first, and then let us chime in if we found anything, or if anyone has anything that they already or anything like that. And that might help as well, especially just with everything that you talk about. It'll be easier for people to kind of focus, because I love the conversations. The free fall is great, but the thing about it is, like you were saying, we kind of get a little bit all over the place. And then, like, even with like how it's like, okay, wait, can I ask you a question? Because like when you guys get confusing, or I want to make sure I stay with you guys, that's why I'll say, hey, can I ask a question? Because you'll get so far ahead, and I'm just sitting here in the back like, well, I'm just gonna wait, because I'm unsure.
See,
So even being able to,
that's
you know what I
problem.
mean, have each
Don't
person
sit in the
talk.
background waiting. Okay, if you got a question, you asked it. I mean, because I'd be more than happy to answer anything as
Oh,
long as
you do great.
I
You
mean,
very attentive to me. You're
you,
very attentive. You've
you
been like that since the first show, the Egypt
I
show. But
good.
everything, I feel like you could touch on it. Like
I
you do
like
really good. You can tuck on
I like the
everything if you.
Sumerians better. Okay, don't call me the Egyptian show. I like the Sumerians better now. I love the Sumerians.
Okay, okay, okay. I apologize.
I
I
could
apologize.
sit
Not
I could sit
Egyptian.
for days and just watch freaking videos on the Sumerian civilization. That's how much I love them. I really need to do more research into Egypt. Don't get me wrong, but if that's where the good stuff is with the Sumerians, and then the second best ones, believe it or not, is with the Hittites and the Phoenicians. Now,
Okay, yeah, because the show kind of just crossed. Yeah, we just kind of went off. See, that's what I mean. Some Egyptians, but it's
but
really the show. But it's because we talked about so many topics. So it's just like a matter of one of those things to where like you should really consider like having your topics laid out, or even if you'd like to say in the chat like, hey guys, what do you think we should talk about? This is what I'm headed
I
towards.
did.
Give
I did. Remember, the original topic was supposed to be conspiracy versus conspiracy theory. Now, that's basically what it comes down to. And I understand the concept of a conspirator. All right, people have been accused of being conspirators for years on top of years. But I don't think that distinguishing between a conspiracy and a conspiracy theory, the way they're trying to do it, is constructive, because first of all, every conspirator is usually involved in politics in some way or another. Okay, there's no way to avoid it. I mean, JFK didn't get assassinated because freaking whoever did it just didn't like him. You know what I'm saying? So, and I know that's one of the first ones they bring up in that whole topic is about JFK,
Yeah, I was watching.
because that's where
The
most of
History Channel has a good documentary about the men that run America. I apologize. No, because you said about JFK, and like, yeah, you're right.
but
You're right.
it seems like somebody wants to go in there and they want to divide the term conspirator or conspiracy and conspiracy theory.
Conspired.
You know, you
Mhm.
it's okay for you to talk about conspiracies, but just don't be talking about conspiracy theories, because those are all just a bunch of crazy people who are uneducated and don't like science. You know what I mean?
Conspiracy theorists, yeah, but
But
the
the
funny
truth
thing about it is they're not even conspiracy because it's true. It's like it's
the
true.
truth of the matter is there's a lot of educated
But I
men.
cooperated to do some really good
There,
stuff.
there's a lot of educated men who believe in freaking conspiracies. You know, um,
I know
and
an engineer that's a flat earther, so
oh yeah, that's that's a rough one that's a rough one to handle. I
now
had I had
I got to say this about flat earthers. No, I don't believe in flat earth theories or what have you, but if you listen to what they rant about, occasionally they stumble across something we do need to look at a little bit closer. They like to talk about how the military enforces no-go zones in Antarctica, when really you're not supposed to enforce anything in Antarctica. It's not claimed by anyone. There's a lot of stuff that the flat earthers talk about. It's worth taking a closer look at. except for, their main reason for believing it.
Yeah. No. Um, there are some things they do talk about, but it's far and few in between. Okay, like if you go on their site and you look at a lot of the stuff that they have on there, I mean, the most of the stuff that they put on there is like old photos of like 1800s or old just as film was being produced and stuff, and then they start doing and that's basically all I've ever really seen too much of them. And then they keep talking about the Michigan Lake, Great Michigan or the Great Lakes, and how if they're on Lake Michigan looking over from Michigan, why is it they can't see St. Louis or Chicago? I mean, you know what I mean? And then they have an excuse for it, you know what I mean? Because it's an illusion that's set up from the horizons. It's from your perspective. It's how you look at it. Like if we're driving down the road and I look down at the speedometer and you're sitting in the passenger seat next to me and we both look at that speedometer, you're not going to see the same thing I do. You see what I mean? That's the kind of stuff they really get into. And I mean, which, don't get me wrong, on a scientific level that is important, because like that's a part of experimentation. I mean, you have to look at stuff like that. I forgot what the astronomers are real big on it too. It's I forgot what it's called and shit. But yeah, the guy that's on Ancient Aliens, his name I keep forgetting it, but he's one guy that I was referring to earlier. And
We're talking about crazy hair, or could it be aliens? Which one?
Ancient Aliens. You're talking about. I'm talking about David Childress. Okay.
Childress, yes.
Now, David Childress is a freaking rocket scientist. Okay. Now, how many times have you heard people tell you it doesn't take a rocket scientist? Well, you know what? It's a rocket scientist telling you he believes in freaking aliens. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
and then as I was saying, then the quantum physics instructor, he says that neuroscience is a lot more difficult than rocket science, which I know enough about neither. I'm just learning quantum, so I think it's funny you use that example. And literally, the instructor, he just said something about that. Anyway, go ahead.
I got a rocket scientist story for you if you want to hear it. It's kind of off topic, but it's hilarious, and it puts rocket scientists in a whole different perspective for me.
That's fine.
I like to laugh. Tell the story, please.
So when I got hired at NASA, and there was actually like a month and a half or 2 months between getting hired and going in there. That government jobs. And when you first start, you have this yellow tag you have to wear with your badge, meaning you haven't fully been cleared yet. You don't have your full security clearance. So my job was to work on the serial networking stuff, the RS-422, that sort of thing. That there was a lot of serial networking because the shuttles were built in the 70s. But I had to run around with the NCS group at first, which was Networking Computer Systems. This is regular desktop guys for the most part, but they were in our shop. Now, regular desktops at the time were alpha workstations and what have you. That's what we were calling regular desktops. But never mind that. The very first call I went on, we got a printer call. And I jumped in with the NCS group because, there wasn't anyone from my group around at the moment. Ran off to this printer call, and we go to trajectory. So trajectory, obviously, these are rocket scientists. They are the ones who determine how much fuel to spend over how much time, out of which nozzle, etc., to keep the station positioned. And they also work on shuttle traj for launches. So we're in traj. We go to traj, and the printer won't print. And I'm nervous. I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm up to this. I know I'm a good tech. I'm a real good tech, but I don't know if I'm a NASA level tech. And this is the first call I'm on, so I run over there, and the printer won't print, and we start, okay, well, let's do some diags, make sure everything's plugged in good, make sure there's, everything's in order. There's no paper. The rocket scientist call the McTechs on the third floor. Their printer won't work, and there's no paper.
What?
And,
because every problem with extremely intelligent people has to be complicated. It's never a simple solution because they're looking for the extreme. That is so funny. Oh my God.
There's reams of paper right next to this printer.
Imagine being the one. What happens when you tell them? What happened when you told them? What were their faces priceless?
They really don't care. They just kind of shrug it off. Oh, okay, yeah, that would explain why it wouldn't print. Okay.
Wow, yeah, right. I'd have just been looking like, are you serious right now?
That's pretty good.
That's why I'm not a tech in NASA. That's so funny.
I had a lot of stuff like that go on there. But you tend to get at a government jobs of the era, and this was Bush the W era. It's hard to get fired from a government job. At least it was during that era. And what tends to happen is if you hire someone to do a job and they're not really up to a task, you hire another person to do the job. And you keep the first guy and you get the second. And eventually you just get a whole bunch of people, one guy carrying the whole group. And then you get a whole bunch of people riding his coattails. And that's the way a lot of things work.
Sounds like a group project in college. Yeah, no.
That's exactly what it is. I've actually heard that with just the documentaries on the space team, the ones that send out these satellites. Exactly what he just explained is what it is. You have an entire team following 2, maybe 3 people that's actually doing the work.
And I survived, I think it was 9 rounds of layoffs when the Obama era layoffs came around. And they finally got rid of me. And I have strong reason to believe it because of demographic check marks. I'm straight, I'm white, I'm male. And even though I carried my team on occasion, there was one guy on my team that was actually better than me. He was ex-Navy and he worked on all this equipment in the Navy and he came over. Nobody else was going to touch that guy. But, I was pretty damn good.
What was the reason? If you don't mind me asking, what was the reason? Because you said you believe that it was this reason, but what was the reason that they gave you?
They didn't. There was layoffs. I survived about 9 rounds before they got to me. The reason was it was the Red State Punishment Program. During the Obama was pretty open about supporting those who supported him. Oshkosh, you remember the Oshkosh vehicle manufacturing that was, I don't know, north of Fort Worth, maybe a little closer to Lubbock. They made military vehicles, MRAPs and what have you. Obama moved it out of Texas just because it was in Texas and he didn't want it here. It would have been political suicide to shut down the Johnson Space Center, but he sure could turn it into a skeleton crew and not get too much attention.
Yeah.
There were a lot of federal programs that got moved out of Texas and other red states during the Obama admin. If you recall, they took over. Remember, that's when the government bought all the GM stock, and Saturn. I don't remember. I don't remember what Saturn was.
I believe, didn't they ship all the Lincolns over to China and traded them for them so they could? It was a real bad deal happening with the economy at the time.
I don't know about Lincoln, but
GM was one of the sold their stock in American Airlines when I watched Power. That's crazy. And let me do it again. You guys keep going because now I'm going crazy in my brain. That's wild.
Well, if you remember, Saturn wasn't made in Detroit. The Saturns were mostly built in another state. I don't even remember which one. But it wasn't a forced union state. It was one of those where union was optional. And that's why Saturn got shut down. And some dude, I don't even remember his name, was going to buy Saturn. and they had it set up to where they reneged on most of their offers. They only offered him one model. They were supposed to give him all their cars for him to keep manufacturing. They moved it down to one model, and he actually had a tripwire set up legally. As soon as they tried to screw him, he got paperwork in first. But they were going to sue him for not buying Saturn right after they took all the models away from the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And Hummers were made in Louisiana. And Louisiana is a union state, but it's a red union state. So they shut down Hummer manufacturing. It was just part of the red state punishment program.
Now, see, that's the thing. I mean, I try to stay away from the political parties and stuff, but like you've got to really bring into question what a union is doing in a freaking Republican state. You know, I mean, right there by itself is just kind of crazy. It's kind of like Walmart. You know what I mean? Why do they have Walmart in these Republican states when you know that the people who are in those unions are conservatives? You know what I mean?
Louisiana is like a traffic light state. It keeps flashing back and forth between red and blue, and I'm talking about at every level. Louisiana just swings at every level back and forth. You notice, I don't even know what kind of governor they have now. But every time a seat turns red, it turns blue the next time around. It's just, they cycle.
Well, that's what Georgia's going through right now. I mean, it's almost exactly the same situation. And I know, what is it, South Carolina, I believe it is. It was the one that was having issues with the election where they had to postpone the voting system because they couldn't get all their votes in, and but they're having the same issue where they're flip-flopping, and it's hard to determine. Now, I don't really like getting in politics either, but you know, like this last election as well, that's another thing that really sticks out to me. Like the way that, and I don't agree with this either, but I know that this is the way it usually works. It's usually after freaking they've determined how things are going in Ohio, isn't it? It's Ohio. That's usually the determined state to show how the rest of the country is pretty much going to vote. I believe that's what they do. They go off of, no, it's Iowa? Or Ohio?
Iowa. Yeah.
Iowa, yeah. Well, that's usually the way it usually goes. Like, once those votes have been tallied in, that's when the rest of these states just basically fall, you know what I mean? One right after the other. But I've never seen any election where Georgia and Las Vegas determine the freaking, in Arizona, you know, those three states determine the elections for that period, and that just blew me out of the water.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself for a second. I'm an objective realist. I am into politics a little bit, but I tend not to open my mouth in a public forum unless I know something for certain. And that's part of why I talked about the Obama Red State Punishment Program. I mean, Obama said so himself. The media covered for him, but there were interviews where he talked about who was going to get rewarded and who wasn't. And he outright said to the cameras, if you don't like it, try winning some elections. Well, the problem is, right now, the elections are rigged.
Yeah.
I'm in Harris County, Texas. Well, I don't live in Harris County at the moment, but I did live in Harris County, Texas. I was at a poll watcher at one of the central polling facilities. I'm telling you straight up that was rigged. The election machinery is broken in many parts of the nation. I lived in Phoenix for a year and a half after high school. Arizona was notoriously conservative during the 90s when I moved there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, at the time, I think it was the only constitutional carry state. Montana might have been also, but yeah, Arizona was constitutional carry. I mean, if you were 18, you'd walk around with a pistol on your hip.
Yeah.
And that was in 1996, 1997, before everyone else jumped on board. There's no way Arizona went blue for the governor or the president. Georgia, I mean, how is it 5 states stopped counting all at the same time, shut down for the same amount of time, and came back with almost exactly identical results when never once in the history of this country has a state ever quit counting until they were done? Oh, everybody go home and take a nap. We're going to count later.
Yeah.
When does that happen?
Yeah. It's when they do the mail-in ballots. You know, that's another thing that they were discussing is like that's the make the leniency on those mail-in ballots was just so outrageous. I mean, I could understand like elderly not being able to get out of the house and they want to get a ballot sent to them in the mail. You know, I watch over my mom and dad and take care of them. You know, and I understand when it comes to the elderly, but if you're too lazy to get your ass up and walk down, at least drive down to a freaking voting ballot, which for me, I can walk there, you know what I mean? Then that's on you. There should be no excuse for you to have to sit and wait to freaking get a ballot in the mail and then mail it back to them. All right, period. If you're able to get up and go to work every day, you're able to freaking get your ass up off the couch and go freaking vote.
Now, I've got a controversial law suggestion I've put forth to people before, and people have liked it, but there's no way it would ever pass. I'm of the belief every 10 years when we do the census, every voter roll in the nation should be purged. Everyone should have 0 registered voters when the census happens. Then everyone everywhere has to re-register. And the reason for this is there's 140-year-olds voting in elections. And I don't think we have too many 140-year-olds around. So,
Chicago is the one that started all that, though. It's
Yeah.
like they really they screwed it up for Illinois. Illinois is still considered a corrupt government, and it really is. They call it the Illinois machine for a reason because of Mike Madigan. He was the last of the old school, and they finally busted him, and he's on his way to prison because found out he was extorting people for it was through the electric, I believe, the energy.
yeah. Well, Illinois still has quite a bit of it going on. If you recall, that's where Obama came from.
Yeah. Well,
And there was a very good documentary on it.
he paid
there
for a
was a-
seat.
Yeah, and it was made, the documentary was made by Democrats. There were Hillary supporters in Illinois that were very upset about how the primary was rigged.
Yeah.
Because all these people wanted Hillary, and when it comes down to it, Hillary probably won that primary. I have no doubt that Obama won the election, but I think that Hillary actually won the primary for the Democrats that time. And it was a bunch of Democrats that I listened to that convinced me of that. So it's not like I'm saying, I'm hating on anyone. I'm looking at this stuff objectively based on what I've seen. And yeah, I think, there aren't, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about conspiracy, okay? Conspiracy theories.
That is conspiracy, but yeah.
I mean, this is the good stuff. This is the stuff that people really need to actually take into consideration when that word conspiracy theory is being thrown around and everybody's making them out to be idiots. Look at the way things are today. You know what I mean? This stuff didn't just happen. And people just allow it. I mean, I call them sheeple, okay? Like, they're people, but they're sheep. And how do you control sheep? You train the freaking lead sheep in the flock, and after you train him to do what you want him to do, the rest of the flock will follow him. You know? You don't have to train every freaking sheep in the flock, just the one that's the leader.
I hate to do this to you guys. I'm going to have to leave. I'm on Central Time. It's 6:30. I'm still at work.
Yeah,
My shift lift ended a half hour ago, but I got something else I'm doing this evening.
I agree
So
with
I
you.
got to get out of here.
I think it's funny.
Uh,
Yeah, Roger's usually really big about his time. I'm surprised he went off. This must
yeah,
be
I
your
know.
knack. You
I
like your
just let it
conspiracy,
go
huh?
over because it took us a little while with adjusting the stuff and everything. And I wanted to get a good amount of time with you guys because I noticed that we were actually getting into good stuff. And, you know what I mean? Give it a straight hour at least. So I really appreciate you for showing up.
It's such a good show. I cannot.
You both have been really helpful, and I enjoy that. You guys, this has been a great video. You know what I
Hey,
mean?
it's even
What
got
about
a humor
tomorrow? What's the
section with my
subject?
chipmunking. So
Yeah, that was amazing. That
That
was
was probably the
amazing.
best part of the show. To like, yeah, to the minute. No, not maybe the best. Maybe that strong second though. I was entertained. I thought it was like purposeful. Anyway, what are you doing tomorrow?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, on me. Tomorrow I am going to just be doing a tutorial for how
Excuse me,
to
sir. I
use.
cannot hear you.
Oh, don't worry, it's not important. On what is tomorrow? But
I want to know. Are you doing a show tomorrow?
on
Or because
Friday,
I know Robot said he's going to do a music.
Friday I'm doing a roundtable. It's the Minds roundtable weekend event. So if you guys want to get on here for that, I mean, I had Mark actually come on here last week, and it was pretty cool. You know, we were talking about just current events to just everything. You know what I mean? It's this one is specifically about conspiracy theories and stuff, but for that one, if you guys just want to get on and just have a good time and talk about what's been going on Minds or whatever, that's what it's basically about. So that's
Oh,
why,
it's a freestyle.
yeah,
I'm
basically,
still trying to decide exactly what I'm going to cover on my own show. I have plans when I actually start doing my own show to just start taking some notes throughout the week and maybe do it once a week and actually scroll minds while I'm talking. And, OBS worked for me well when I was actually live casting to minds. Didn't work so well with Jitsi, but that's kind of what I'm thinking is
What
just
about your
a
energy
control
thing
show.
that you were talking about? Can you do a
Energy.
show on that? Because you were talking about making. Yeah,
oh yeah,
you were
yeah,
talking
you're
about
Oh,
listening to
yeah.
the air
The
conditioning.
absorption cooling.
that
Yeah,
that would be it.
yeah, your air conditioning. I feel as though you should. I definitely. That's something interesting anyway, because I have no idea what you're talking about, but I learned through you all
And when
talking
when
about it.
you
So
when
can
you
you maybe?
start when you start doing your own show, let me know because I would definitely like to watch it. Okay,
Me as
All right.
well.
I would
Yeah, I
definitely.
don't really have any topics. I've actually kind of debated how I was going to do video.
Yeah,
And I actually put my own channel in the Minds chat. And I figured, you know what? I can do video chat in Minds, go ahead and use it. And, using OBS, I can put us both on screen and control all that however I want.
yeah.
But I think I'm actually going to try to use Minds video for it. Find out if it's going to work worth a shit or not.
Now that
But I mean, like
that
that's how
link,
they'll learn, and then you can help the developers. Oh, just make sure you put the link in the general or wherever, because I would like to see.
Mark is
All right.
real good at that too. If you want help, just talk with Mark Edworthy, and like on the Jitsi, don't use.
He's the reason I'm still on Minds.
Yeah, me
When I
too.
first got here, my buddy Max Casey's the one who brought me along. He's the one that I've done a lot of radio type shows. I don't know if you can tell, but the Black Market Liberty show I used to do with him in the past, and there was another one that I was on quite a bit, which was Scott Ford, the Libertarian Professor. And so I actually worked with Scott Ford when I was in politics. But I've just kind of been wanting to do my own thing forever. I've got an idea to go on the road if I can actually start getting some money under me, to where I was do a traveling show. I have something to. I'm thinking of a more, the TED Talks are way left leaning, and there's some really good TED Talks. But I wanted to do something that competed with them. It was more along the lines of, like we're talking about today, conspiracy, practical, things like we were talking about earlier with the refrigeration and the energy.
Yeah,
I talk to people.
Alternative energy sources. I'm big on those. That's why it's like
See,
I don't know the chemical how you're doing
free
it.
energy is something that's also. I mean, you have to really be into the whole uh, conspiracy thing to really understand that concept of free energy. Like, there's a lot of people out there who believe that it can be done right here and right now, but the technology is being held back. You know,
It
so
can be. Tesla did it, but not even that though. It's crazy to me because it's like I definitely with the free energy. I have an energy restaurant alternative resource company, but that's neither here nor there. What I'm talking about is when you're talking about like you put in these lines with the little letters and all those like kind of things. Like I cannot write the equation for that stuff, but when you're talking about what we're doing, it makes it more intriguing to see what exactly is necessary in order for you to be able to facilitate these things. Because I mean, like we are energy, and so for us to be like, okay, well, it's a conspiracy. It's not. It's not. I mean, because we're energy, like literally just big balls of energy. Everything around us is consistent with energy, and everything, especially when you're talking that's alive, is something that we can exchange with. We do exchange with, and it's just a matter of being able to harvest that energy and how we're able to actually like focus where it's going and channel it to go where we would like it to go and kind of funnel it to its direction. I feel like Elon Musk does a really good job with that type of stuff. But I'm not. I just started getting into like all his work and stuff like that. Him as a person was a different story, but like in regards to like what he actually focuses on, if you look at like I don't know if you guys are big on him. He's kind of controversial, so some people kind of yay, some people kind of no. But he's so smart and he's very very informative in regards to when you're talking about like energy and using different forms of energy in order to power different aspects. Like even when you're talking about like just yeah, I think the energy is a big topic, and it would be a great place for you to start since you've already kind of started and you have something going. Like you said, you're building your
yeah,
cooler,
I
and
think
I
you're.
feel as though that's something you could ping
I
pong.
have to agree with her on that. I think that would be the perfect start for your videos. You know what I mean? And I know, like for me, I've tried all this extra stuff on formatting and everything. I've got like uh, I got a channel on YouTube for freaking strange stories. I've got one for science. I've got one for a mix between science and politics and all that stuff, you know. And then that's not even with my gaming stuff. And I've tried all this stuff, and really the best way I've found is what we're doing here. You know what I mean? Come out with your stuff, make your video, and just basically wing it. You know what I mean? The way you feel
Yeah,
comfortable
find your tribe.
about how you want to do it. And I mean, just from our conversation today, you've already got one guy that's going to sit and watch your video, guaranteed. Okay.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll check out my channel. I really do have to go now,
Yeah.
but
Same here.
I try to be a good Minds member. I make a point to make original content, or at least if I'm posting memes, finding the memes somewhere else and bringing them to Minds instead of reminding all the time.
Yeah.
So I try to keep it fresh as much as I can. But now for my own stuff, I've got a lot of plans. I still don't know how I'm going to do it all, but I
That's
would,
all the
yeah,
more
check
reason to
it out.
discuss it. You
Yeah.
might find
Please.
investors. You might find people that are extremely interested. You know what I mean? People that are interested in your concept. But make sure you get your money off the top because I don't play about these investors. I'm just gotta let you know that part. But yeah, no, it's definitely something that you should definitely consider because you have all your plans. Okay, we're not going to keep going because we
Yeah.
could do this. I could
Yeah,
do
I
this.
definitely got to go. So I'm
Let's get
out,
this.
folks.
My
Catch you
coffee
I'm
next
glad
time.
you
is
showed up, man. Appreciate it. Now, thank you very much, Karma, for showing up again. I really do appreciate it. This was a good conversation.
yeah,
And
definitely. Thank you for allowing me to be here and allowing me to participate instead of saying just shut up.
oh, it's
Definitely
fine.
appreciate you allowing me to
It's
participate.
fine.
You're
Now,
cool.
tomorrow I'm gonna do the Minds Roundtable weekend event, and that's gonna be at the same time, 5 o'clock. And then, wait, what is today? Yeah, today was supposed to be.
Thursday, the 24th.
Today was supposed to be strangeness, which that's fine because
We did Strangeness yesterday.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think I
Yeah,
messed that up. But anyhow, I wanted strangeness to be yesterday because I had to switch that around with the round table, and that's tomorrow. And then no, today, yeah. Okay, I'll get that straightened out.
I bookmark your time.
I
Like
skipped
I
I
even
skipped
tell.
gaming is what it was. So,
Oh, that's what you did.
but
So do
that's
it Saturday.
fine.
Do you
I
stream on
can
Saturday? Do you game on
I can
Saturday?
switch uh, conspiracy around with gaming and put gaming on Saturday because with that one I want to discuss things like not just video
Saturday's
games.
a good day for gaming. That should have been that day anyway, because Saturday's such a good day for gaming. Just think about how many people are off, how many people are able to actually contribute as well as participate. Just be there. Gaming
Yeah,
is what you're just chilling. Saturday's the chill day. Gaming Saturday's supposed to be game day. Like, yeah,
yeah,
no, you're supposed to have that already. Not to say you were supposed to have
yeah.
that
I know
already. Maybe you're
it's a
supposed to
good
think of it
idea.
already.
I
Yeah, it's a
should.
really good idea.
It'd be a good idea. So I'm gonna switch that around and make it tomorrow is going to be gaming and
No. Tomorrow is your roundtable. Saturday's going to be
oh
gaming.
yeah,
Today's Thursday.
Saturday is roundtable. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually a
No, you
good
don't have to
video.
apologize. I was just
I'm
letting
a
you.
bit, I'm a bit kind. I'm really glad we had that that
I only
stream.
play Katamari on my PlayStation.
Oh, that's fine.
Katamari and basketball. Katamari's my favorite game, though. I
You'll
can roll
be
that ball all night.
you'll be amazed by the the type of information that concerns gaming. Gaming has video games on the internet has very little to do with actual gaming. Like you got so much stuff, but tomorrow we'll get into that. And
I'm gonna come to all your shows. Now I'm not gonna be as active in the ones that I'm not very familiar with or just stuff that I'm learning, of course, obviously, because I don't like to sound like a bumbling idiot. But at the same exact time, I'm gonna make sure I support you so that way you people get more involved. I was thinking about sharing the shows, but like I would like to keep mine protected. And people
yeah,
that I know that know me are kind of just, I don't want you to know that we're here yet. Anyway, that's just how it really's been going with me. It's not that I don't support you or don't
well
want
that's
other people to
perfectly
support you,
fine.
but I have to be safe.
That is perfectly fine. And I'm going to stop the recording and everything, and I'll have a copy of this posted onto the 24/7 uh, live TV chat here shortly, like before.
Okie
Um,
dokie.
apparently now the Minds is the Mind stream is actually doing the replay, so I might not have to post that on my my profile, which it never had it before, but at
I
least
never
it'll
knew
be
you could
there.
do any of that stuff.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
just
cool.
post like I'm on Twitter or X.
I'm kind of
I don't like
excited.
seeing that.
I'm kind of excited. I want to see what this looks like. So let me get off of here and we can discuss this later on, okay?
Okie dokie. Have a good night. Thank you again so much for having me, and
You
we'll see you
too, and
tomorrow.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye bye.